Right, Netflix has bought Warner Brothers and also, HBO, HBO Max, and DC. So what's the latest? Is James Gunn going to stay? Is he going to go? Is he safe? Are they going to bring back the Snyderverse? Because that is what a lot of people have been hoping. That's what a lot of YouTubers have been saying. Not me. I came out and said Netflix are incredibly unlikely to want Zack Snyder in charge of DC. And the reason why, it was just kind of like just an educated guess. Just looking, it was a logical conclusion. Netflix has been cancelling a lot of Zack Snyder's projects. A lot of them, actually. They've not been continuing with his work. They gave him a chance, right? They gave him a first look deal. Gave him a lot of money. But they've not chosen to pursue the projects that they've been released, into their completion, that's their prerogative. They've obviously crunched the numbers. FYI, I don't know how Netflix crunches numbers because they cancel a lot of popular stuff. I'm not saying he's unpopular. I don't know. But it didn't look like they were going to continue. It didn't look like it would be likely that they would continue with him into the future if they've been cancelling his projects. Well, looks like James Gunn might remain. That's what we're hearing anyway. Looks like James Gunn will remain in charge of DC Studios. Now, we did know that, because I did a video, that if Paramount had bought Warner Brothers, Paramount were looking very, very likely just to bin him off. Right? And we know that because there was a producer meeting with Zach Kreger to discuss quite literally greenlighting a DC movie if they were to buy it. Now, that was circumventing James Gunn. So we know that Paramount were on that train. They were on the firing train. But Netflix looks like they're going to keep James Gunn. At least for the time being. So let's take a look. I myself have not heard anything about this yet from any insider. I don't. I'm just relaying information. So let's take a look. Hit subscribe before we do. If I could just ask you kindly. If you're a returning viewer that isn't subscribed, for instance, consider it. You keep coming back and stuff. So hit subscribe. That'd be really good. And for anyone that enjoys what I do and wants to help me keep doing it, I do have a Patreon. I will leave it linked down below or in a pinned comment. Please do go and support my work here. So as this article notes, the news broke yesterday that Netflix is moving forward with an attempted acquisition of Warner Brothers. And it is attempted because there's sort of antitrust laws and a lot of stuff that needs to get around. A hell of a lot of stuff that Netflix is going to need to get around. They seem really confident with it. I will say I don't know how. And the reason is because they are the market for streaming, basically. So if they then consume HBO and HBO Max, it's difficult to argue how they wouldn't then become a monopoly. But they seem confident, and they've obviously, they're confident enough to have even pursued the acquisition to its completion. So who knows? Who knows? But Warner Brothers Discovery stands to gain either way, because if the deal doesn't go through for any reason, Netflix will have to pay the company over $5 billion. So they're going to be quids in regardless. Should the streaming service successfully acquire Warner Brothers, it will add Warner Brothers Pictures, HBO, HBO Max, DC Comics, DC Studios, and more to its portfolio. So over the past 24 hours, fans have been, questioning online what's the potential ramifications for James Gunn and Peter Safran. So it's already been confirmed that DC Studios co-CEOs are under contract until 2027. And we don't know whether they're going to re-up that deal. No one knows. And this is one of the other things, is that it looked like it would be easy for Paramount to phase them out, because by the time this deal is done, gone through all the legal ringers, and say if Paramount had bought them, they can just phase out their contracts. And same as Netflix, when this is all said and done, 2027, they could bin them off if they want to. But that's not looking like the case. It's not looking likely. So John Campier has shared an update claiming to have heard that Netflix intends to keep Gunn, Michael DeLuca, and Pamela Abdi in their current roles within DC Studios and Warner Brothers Pictures. He's under the assumption that Safran will remain, but hasn't been able to confirm that. Peter Safran's a bit of a black sheep in this, because he isn't it doesn't seem to be heavily involved. Everyone else seems much more involved than he does. Honestly, we don't really know. We know what his role is stated to be. We've not really seen him in that role. And there was some rumours and rumblings that he was phasing himself out. And it would basically just be James Gunn in future. So who knows? But John Campier seems to think that James Gunn is safe. His role is perfectly safe. Now again, it's not to say that in future, in 2027, for instance, that his deal will be... He might even want to continue his deal, right? James Gunn might not want to continue his deal. Netflix might want to bin them off as well. Like, we don't know what the long-term statement is for all of this. But it seems like Netflix wants to keep them on. They obviously find it successful enough to keep it going. Again, you guys can argue down below whether that's good or bad, but it doesn't look like Netflix is gonna what's the phrase, restore the Snyderverse or whatever it is. It doesn't look like that's gonna happen at all. As this article notes, it seems a little premature to assume or even report that anyone will stick around, because we won't know what Netflix really has planned for Warner Brothers until the deal is signed, sealed, and delivered. That is true. However, if DC Studios continues finding success in the coming years, there's really no reason for Netflix to ditch Gunn and Safran. Unless they want to ditch Netflix, right? And that's the other side of things. It's a two-way street. So they may find themselves dealing with more oversight. So they may want to leave. But as of now, it seems David Zaslav is happy to let them pick the filmmakers and projects they want to work with. However, if someone, Netflix has a close relationship with, says that they would like to tell a story in the DCU, DC Studios will likely have no choice but to relent and make it happen. So maybe Snyder will come back just to tell a story. But I don't think he'll be coming back to do a whole thing. Like oversee the universe and stuff. So there you go. I mean, that's just the rumour at the moment. And you got articles like this. Netflix saves James Gunn in the DCU. This person has their own insiders. They say the situation isn't nearly as simple as them sticking around. Paramount has continued involvement as well, apparently. So, who knows? Right? We don't know. This is just like a, to me, to you, what's the report saying? All these kind of things. It's interesting. So, his insider on this website maintained that if Netflix streamlines Warner Brothers and reduces DC's footprint, Gunn may walk away on his own, which that's a given anyway. The concern is that Netflix's centralized structure leaves little room for powerful division heads, and speciality areas like DC wouldn't operate with the same level of autonomy. And that makes sense. Yeah, people used to that would want to leave. So there you go. Not much else really to say. It looks like James Gunn is saved for now, and it doesn't look like the Snyderverse is coming back either. Again, it just doesn't seem to be the case. So what do you guys think? Let me know down below. I'd love to hear what you think. Cheers, guys. Take care. Bye-bye now.